Hello and welcome. We're going to be going over a new player guide for Studlands. If you don't know already, Studlands is an adventure game. You can go around the world, fight enemies, get some new equipment, battle bosses, dive into dungeons, and much more. Now, if you're a new player, the first thing I want you to do is explore the world. Learning about the different areas in this world is going to be very beneficial for you later down the road. Learning where the different towns are, different shops, and most importantly, gathering quests. There's no limit to how many quests you can have at once, so gathering these quests on hand can help you later down the road. Quests themselves do give some important information, such as the names of resources and different enemies in the area. But additionally, if you're not ready for an area, you can just come back to it and you won't have to pick up that quest again since you've already done it before. Besides quests, when exploring the world, there's one other major thing you're going to want to look out for: campfires. These are green glowing campfires and basically they're teleporters. The tutorial talks about these, and it does mention that you have to be level 10 to use them, but you don't have to be level 10 to obtain them. Getting them early is going to help you so you don't have to look for them again. A lot of these are going to be in really odd areas already, so if you do see one, make sure to pick it up. While exploring the world, you might not be able to take on enemies, however, you'll be able to gather resources. The game does give you a pickaxe, an axe, and a shovel. These tools will allow you to gather most resources in the game already. There are a few other tools that you will want to invest in early on. However, my highest recommendation is to get shears. Shears will allow you to gather plants such as the berry bushes that you see all around, and other plants like wheat and corn. These plants can be used in cooking, and there's only two main ways to restore health in this game: eating food and going to an inn. So gathering up some plants to craft into food is going to be very beneficial, especially if you're diving into dungeons. We'll get into that a little bit later. Now, to get some shears, you're going to have to go to this town and you'll have to buy them from a merchant. I would highly recommend doing this as soon as possible. To get currency in this game, you'll be able to sell studs. Studs are obtained from enemies at a chance. Luckily, a lot of enemies drop studs of various rarities. The higher the rarity, the more it sells for. However, one of the better ways to get currency is going to be by selling materials. Materials that you've gathered all around, or materials off of enemies themselves. And that is why I recommend exploring and gathering as much as possible. Additionally, when you gather resources, you'll learn where they're at, and you'll also be able to upgrade your stuff. Now, if you don't mind waiting a little bit and doing a little bit of tedious work, I would recommend jumping right into Scarlet Steel if you can. Now, you will need to be a little bit higher level, but honestly, just jumping over the early game tools is going to be a little bit better. My reasoning for this is Scarlet Steel is incredibly easy to obtain since the cave is right in front of spawn and the enemies that are around it are not that bad. Focus on gathering better weapons in the meantime and more materials to help you along the way. Now, on the topic of progress, we're going to be going over enemies. Enemies are awesome because they have some really unique drops the further you get into the game. Some enemies early on will have some rare drops, and others will have some really cool materials you'll need for crafting. Additionally, if an enemy feels pretty difficult, try observing them. Enemies attack in a pattern. For example, here's this little mouse. First he'll screech, and then he'll try punching me. He'll screech again, and punch. This process repeats. If you get used to an enemy's attack pattern, you'll be able to dodge or block when needed. Luckily for you, this little mouse does have some unique drops. At a 5% chance, he will drop some equipment. Equipment is the only way that you're going to be able to boost your stats. Different equipment sets will have different focuses, such as melee or ranged, and so on and so on. One of the best items in the game that I would recommend getting early is going to be an informational book that covers all of the monsters. Right now, I'm going to show you where you can find the shop to obtain it, and as it plays, I'll give you some info. Basically, this guidebook is going to be information about every single enemy in the game. If you kill an enemy 4 times, you'll gain its information inside of this book, and it'll tell you all of the drops and all of the percentages. This helps keeping tabs of different materials, different drops, and items you might have missed. Another good item is going to be this map. This map will show you the locations all around the world, but honestly, I would recommend the book. Now, as you progress, you might stumble across a few events. This game's pretty awesome in the aspect that there's different events that can trigger randomly. For example, there can be a meteor that falls from the sky, but most notably, an eclipse can occur in this game. During an eclipse, enemies will have boosted health, but they'll also have boosted drop rates. So if you're trying to get a really rare material, fighting enemies during an eclipse can be beneficial. Additionally, eclipses can spawn rare enemies. These enemies can be pretty difficult, but their special drops can be worth it. Now, lastly, once you're of level, I would recommend diving into dungeons. The Redwoods has a dungeon for level 15. You and other players can queue up and dive right into it. Your main goal is completing the boss fight within the time span. Don't worry about the small fry all too much. After a boss is defeated, you'll be given a list of different loot items, but one notably is going to be a bundle. These bundles you can open up in your inventory, and they'll give you even more. That is going to be everything for this video. I hope this information was helpful. I hope this new player guide has helped you get started. And all of this is from my experience and what I would do if I were to start all over again. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see ya.